I stood in the living room of my San Francisco apartment, gazing at the wedding dress draped over the armchair. It was stunning. Creamy satin with soft lace that shimmered in the afternoon light. 3 months of hunting through boutiques, and I'd finally found a dress that felt like me. I ran my fingers over the smooth fabric, imagining James's eyes lighting up as I walked down the aisle. That quiet smile he always gave me, the one that made my heart skip. My phone vibrated on the kitchen counter. Probably Claire, my best friend, with another idea for the bachelorette party she was throwing together. Claire had been relentless all week, texting me about venues, themes, even matching sashes for the girls. I grinned, crossing the room to grab my phone. We'd been thick as thieves since college, the kind of friendship where you know each other's quirks, anticipate every need before it's spoken. When James proposed, Claire sobbed harder than I did, hugging me so tight I could barely breathe. But it wasn't Claire's name on the screen. It was an email, from an address I didn't know, truthbeferethevos@gmail.com. The subject line hit like a punch. Before you say I do. My finger lingered over the delete button. Junk mail, I told myself. Some phishing scam. But a knot twisted in my stomach, urging me to open it. I tapped the screen. No words, no greeting. Just an attachment. 3 photos. I clicked the first, and my world tilted. James, his arms slung around a woman whose face was hidden, stepping into a hotel lobby. The timestamp was yesterday, when he said he was at a tech conference in San Jose. My pulse thundered in my ears. I opened the second photo. The woman faced the camera now, smiling up at James. Claire. My Claire. Her hand rested on his knee, her eyes sparkling with a warmth I hadn't seen since she swore off dating after her breakup 2 years ago. The floor seemed to drop away. I sank onto the couch, my legs useless. My hands trembled as I opened the third photo, the worst one. James and Claire, kissing in an elevator, his fingers woven through her hair, her body pressed close. The timestamp glowed, 10:37 p.m. My breath stopped. I stared at the images, willing them to be fake. A prank, a glitch, anything but real. But there was James's leather bracelet, the one I'd bought him last Christmas, circling his wrist. And Claire's earrings, those silver hoops she wore when we went shopping last week. She'd said she needed them for a client dinner. My chest tightened, like someone was squeezing the air out of me. I flicked between the photos, first, second, third, searching for a flaw, a sign it wasn't them. Claire, who knew every fear I'd ever confessed. James, who promised me a life together. Together, like I was nothing. My phone buzzed again. A text from Claire. Dress fitting today? Can't wait to see you rock it. Love ya. The words stung, sharp and cruel. Love ya. I laughed, a jagged sound that echoed in the empty room. I gripped the phone, my knuckles white, and flung it across the room. It smashed against the wall, hitting the floor with a sickening crack. The screen splintered, but her message still glowed through the shards. Love ya. I stumbled to the bathroom, my stomach lurching. I dropped to my knees, heaving into the toilet, the bitter taste of ball burning my throat. When it was over, I clung to the sink, shaking, and forced myself to stand. The mirror showed a stranger. Mascara streaked my cheeks, dark trails carving paths through my skin. My eyes, swollen and red, didn't belong to Anna, the woman who'd spent months planning a wedding, who believed in love, who trusted her fiancé and her best friend without question. I splashed cold water on my face, but it didn't wash away the hollow ache inside. I shuffled back to the living room, my bare feet cold against the hardwood. My phone rang, James's ringtone slicing through the quiet. It lay where it fell, screen fractured, his name flashing. I picked it up, slow, like it might burn me. I answered, my voice flat, unfamiliar. Hey, babe, he said, bright and easy, like he was calling from a coffee shop, not a lie. How's my girl doing? You at home? For a split second, I wanted to believe him. Maybe the photos were a trick, a cruel mistake. but they flashed in my mind, his arm around Claire, her lips on his. "Where are you?" I asked, each word heavy, deliberate. "Still in San Jose," he said, smooth as ever. "Conference just wrapped. Miss you tons." The lie was so effortless, so practiced. How many times had I fallen for it, smiling, trusting? The room closed in, and I gripped the phone tighter, the truth clawing at my throat. The phone trembled in my hand, James's voice still echoing through the cracked speaker. "Miss you tons," he'd said, so casual, like he hadn't been kissing Claire in a San Jose elevator last night. I stood frozen in my San Francisco apartment, the air thick with betrayal. My eyes drifted to the wedding dress, still draped over the armchair, its satin glowing mockingly in the dim light. The phone buzzed again, James's ringtone jarring me back. I wanted to let it ring, to bury it under the couch cushions and pretend none of this was real. But the anger bubbling inside me wouldn't let me. I answered, my voice low, unsteady. "Why are you lying to me?" A pause, long and heavy. "Anna, what's wrong?" James asked, his tone shifting, cautious now. "You sound upset." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that scraped my throat. "Upset? I saw you, James, with Claire. At the hotel in San Jose." My voice shook, but I forced the words out. "Photos. Yesterday, 10:37 p.m. You two walking in, her hand on you, kissing in the elevator." Silence stretched on the other end, his breathing shallow, panicked. I could almost see him, scrambling for a lie, his charm crumbling. "Anna, hold on," he finally said, his voice tight. It's not what it looks like." "Not what it looks like?" I snapped, pacing the living room now, my bare feet slapping the hardwood. "I have proof, James. Your bracelet, the one I gave you. Her earrings, those damn hoops. Don't tell me it's not you." Another silence, then a sigh, defeated. Okay. Can I explain?" The word explain felt like a blade twisting in my chest. As if any explanation could erase the image of Claire's lips on his, their bodies pressed together. "Is she there now?" I asked, my voice cold, daring him to lie again. I heard a faint click, like a door closing, then his voice dropped to a whisper. "No, she's not. Anna, it was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. A mistake." The word ignited something raw inside me. I laughed again, the sound harsh, unrecognizable. "A mistake? Was it a mistake last night? Last month? How long have you been sneaking around with my best friend?" He didn't answer, his silence louder than any confession. My grip tightened on the phone, the cracked screen digging into my palm. "She's there, isn't she?" I pressed, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. "Yes," he admitted, barely audible. "But Anna, please, let me." I didn't let him finish. I ended the call, my finger slamming the button, and blocked his number in one swift motion. Then Claire's, her name vanishing from my contacts like I could erase her from my life. The room spun, too small to hold the storm inside me. I turned to the wedding dress, its perfect folds taunting me. All those hours picking it out, imagining our future, built on lies. I grabbed scissors from the kitchen, the metal icy against my skin. The first cut was clumsy, the blade catching on the satin, but then it flowed, easier, almost freeing. I sliced through the lace, the fabric tearing with a satisfying rip. Each cut chipped away at the dream I'd clung to, the life I thought we'd share. When I finished, the dress was a pile of ruined satin and lace, scattered across the floor. I shoved the pieces into a trash bag, tied it tight, and dragged it to the door, my breath ragged. I sank onto the couch, the weight of it all pressing down. The apartment was silent now, no buzzing phone, no James's smooth excuses, no Claire's fake love ya. Just me, alone with the truth. Then my phone rang, a number I hadn't seen in months. Sophie, my sister. We'd barely spoken since Thanksgiving, when I chose to spend it with James's family instead of hers in Sonoma. I hesitated, my thumb hovering, but answered. "Anna?" Sophie's voice was soft, laced with worry. "You okay? You don't sound right." I meant to say I was fine, the lie I'd perfected over years. But my voice betrayed me, cracking as the truth spilled out. No, I whispered, tears burning my eyes. I'm not okay at all. I sat on a bench in San Francisco's Golden Gate Park, staring at a couple arguing by the rose garden. The woman gestured wildly, her hands slicing the air, while the man scuffed his sneakers against the gravel, head bowed. Their words were lost in the breeze, but their tension screamed loud enough. Betrayal, shame, a fight teetering on collapse. I knew that dance too well. 3 days had passed since I saw those photos of James and Claire. 3 days of dodging unknown numbers, trashing unopened emails, and ignoring the faint knocks at my apartment door. I'd blocked them both, but their faces haunted me. James's arm around Claire, their kiss in that San Jose elevator. A shadow crossed the bench. Sophie, my sister, stood there, holding 2 steaming coffee cups, her eyes soft with worry. She'd driven 3 hours from Sonoma after our call, refusing to let me face this alone. You look like a ghost, Anna, she said, handing me a cup. The heat burned my fingers, but I welcomed it, something solid to grip. Thanks, I mumbled, staring at the lid. I felt exposed, like she could see every crack in me. Sophie sat close, her shoulder grazing mine. Want to talk about it? Her voice was gentle, no judgment, just space for me to breathe. I sipped the coffee, wincing as it scalded my tongue. The pain was sharp, real, a tether to the moment. Not really, I said, my eyes on the arguing couple. They were hugging now, clinging to each other, tears mixing with shaky smiles. I envied their ability to mend, to find a way back. Sophie stayed quiet, letting the park's sounds, kids laughing, dogs barking fill the gap. You canceled everything, she asked after a while. Venue, caterers, the works? I nodded, my throat tight. They kept the deposits. Doesn't matter. My voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. What about the ring? Sophie asked. I glanced at my hand, the diamond still glinting there, a forgotten weight. I tugged it off, the band cold against my skin, and dropped it into my coffee. It sank with a faint plop, swallowed by the dark liquid. Sophie's eyebrows shot up, but she didn't comment. I might sell it, I said, a weak smile flickering. Get something nice, like a vacation. She nudged me, her tone teasing. That's stealing, you know. Only if I get caught, I replied, and we both laughed, the sound thin but warm, a fleeting escape from the ache. Her face softened, but her eyes stayed serious. So, what's your plan, Anna? I watched a flock of pigeons squabble over a dropped bagel, their wings flapping in a chaotic dance. I don't know, I admitted, the words heavy. I just can't stay here. Every corner of this city feels like them. Sophie leaned closer, her voice steady. My place in Sonoma's open. Spare room, no questions asked. Stay as long as you need. I pictured Sonoma's quiet streets, vineyards stretching under wide skies, a place where no one knew my story, my shame. But a spark of defiance flared inside me. I can't, I said, sharper than I meant. If I run, it's like they win. This isn't about winning, Anna, Sophie said, her voice soft but firm. It's about you. I opened my mouth to argue, but a flash of movement caught my eye. James and Claire, strolling along a path across the park, maybe 60 yards away. My breath caught, sharp and painful. They hadn't seen us. Claire was talking, her hands waving, animated. James nodded, his arm looped around her waist, easy, like they were any couple out for a walk. Anna, Sophie whispered, her hand on my arm. Oh, God. I couldn't move, couldn't blink. They looked so ordinary, so right together. How had I missed it? Years of Claire's laughter, James's promises, all lies. Let's go, Sophie urged, tugging my sleeve. But I shook her off, my voice low. Wait. I slid off the bench, crouching behind a cluster of bushes, pulling Sophie with me. I need to hear them. It was a bad idea, reckless, but I couldn't stop myself. We crept closer, weaving through trees, the damp grass soaking my sneakers. Claire's voice drifted over, clearer now. So messy, James. I didn't mean for this. He sounded tense. She's got those photos. The wedding's off. You need to be careful what you say. Claire sighed. She'll come around. She always does. His tone was smug, infuriating. Yeah, Anna's predictable like that. Predictable. The word stung, but then Claire's voice dropped, and I strained to hear. I keep thinking about the baby. How do we tell her? My heart stopped. Baby? Sophie's hand gripped mine, her nails digging in. James's voice was sharp. We don't. It's not her business anymore. Claire touched her stomach, a small, instinctive gesture. It feels wrong, keeping it from her. She's my best friend. The words twisted in my best friend, after everything. I must have gasped, because their heads snapped toward the trees. Anna? Claire called, her voice uncertain. I grabbed Sophie's hand and ran, branches snagging my jacket, my pulse roaring. We didn't stop until we reached her car, both of us panting, the park fading behind us. Did you hear that? I gasped, bending over, hands on my knees. She's pregnant. With his kid. Sophie unlocked the car, her face pale. Get in. We need to get out of here. I slid into the passenger seat, my mind spinning. Claire. Pregnant with James's child. A child that could have been mine, in another life. The betrayal sank deeper, a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. As Sophie started the engine, I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't running. Not yet. The gym was a ghost town at 5 a.m., just me and the hum of fluorescent lights in San Francisco's Mission District. I stood under the weight rack, adding another 10 pounds to the bar, my shoulders screaming in protest. The anger coursing through me drowned out the pain. 3 days since I'd overheard Claire and James in Golden Gate Park. 3 days since I learned she was pregnant with his child. The truth burned, fueling every rep, every grunt. I didn't expect company, not this early, but a familiar voice broke through my haze. You're gonna hurt yourself, Anna. Rachel, my coworker, stood behind me, her gym bag slung over one shoulder, her eyes narrowing with concern. We'd started this pre-dawn workout routine together months ago, back when I was still giddy about wedding plans. I hadn't expected her today, hadn't expected anyone. I'm fine, I muttered, lying back under the bar, pushing it up. My arms trembled, the weight heavier than my pride. Rachel stepped closer, her voice firm. You don't look fine. You look like you're trying to bench press your feelings. The bar clattered back into place, the sound echoing in the empty gym. I sat up, wiping sweat from my brow. Since when are you a shrink? Since my friend started ghosting everyone and showing up looking like she's plotting a crime, Rachel said, tossing me a towel. Her tone was light, but her eyes were sharp, searching. What's going on, Anna? I caught the towel, my fingers clenching the fabric. Everyone was worried, everyone except James and Claire. You knew, didn't you? I said, my voice low, accusing. Rachel's face fell, guilt flickering across it. Knew what? I stood, pacing to the water cooler, needing space. About James and Claire. You saw something, didn't you? Rachel hesitated, then sighed, setting her bag down. I suspected. Claire's been weird for months, always texting, sneaking off during happy hours. And last week, at the bar, I caught them looking at each other when they thought no one was watching. Her words hit like a fresh wound. I gripped my water bottle, the plastic crinkling. And you didn't tell me? My voice rose, sharp, raw. I was planning a wedding, Rachel. With a man who was screwing my best friend, and you just let me keep going. I wasn't sure, she said, defensive, her hands up. It wasn't my place. I thought if something was happening, James should tell Hannah would tell you. He's been honest with me before, Anna. Her voice softened, but the sting of her silence burned. I'm sorry, Anna. I should have said something. I turned away, my chest tight. The betrayal wasn't just James and Claire, it was everyone who'd seen the cracks and stayed quiet. She's pregnant, I said abruptly, the words spilling out. Claire. With James's kid. Rachel's eyes widened, her mouth parting in shock. Are you serious? How did you? I heard them, I cut in, my voice bitter. In the park, talking about it like it's their little secret. I slung my gym bag over my shoulder, the weight of it grounding me. So yeah, I'm planning something. Not a crime, but justice. Rachel grabbed my arm, her grip firm. Anna, wait. Whatever you're thinking, don't. You're hurt, I get it, but revenge? That's not you. I yanked my arm free, my voice cold. Everyone keeps saying that. Be the bigger person, Anna. I'm done being bigger. I want them to feel this pain. Rachel's eyes softened, but her tone was sharp. And then what? You think hurting them will fix you? It won't. It'll just chain you to them forever. I stared at her, her words slicing through my anger, but I wasn't ready to hear them. Thanks for the advice, I said, my voice flat. But I've made up my mind. I walked out, her worried gaze trailing me like a shadow. Outside, the early morning air was cool, the city still waking up. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found Megan, James's old college roommate. She'd always been blunt, never one for his charm. If anyone knew the real James, it was her. I typed a quick message, need to talk about James. Can we meet? My finger hovered over send, my heart pounding. This was it, the first step toward answers, toward making them pay. I hit send, the decision settling in my bones. They'd taken my future, my trust. I wasn't running from this fight, I was diving in. Megan's apartment in Oakland was exactly what I'd expected from James's old college roommate. Sparse furniture, a gaming console humming in the corner, and a jar of protein powder on the kitchen counter. I stood by the window, the Bay Area's evening lights flickering below, my stomach knotted with anticipation. Megan had agreed to meet me without hesitation, her text back sharp, about time you saw through him. Now she slid a cold beer across the coffee table, her eyes studying me. Didn't think you'd ever call, she said, leaning back in her chair. I've been waiting for the day you figured out what a snake James is. I ignored the beer, my hands clasped tight. If you knew, why didn't you warn me? Megan raised an eyebrow, her expression half amused, half bitter. Would you have listened? You were head over heels, Anna. James could do no wrong in your eyes. If I'd said anything, you'd have thought I was jealous, stirring drama. She wasn't wrong. I'd brushed off criticism about James before, chalking it up to misunderstandings or envy. Love had made me blind, foolish. I shifted, my voice low. What's changed? Why help me now? Megan leaned forward, elbows on her knees, her gaze piercing. Because what he's doing to you. It's the same crap he pulled on Lauren in college. And Emily after her. Probably others too. My stomach twisted. Lauren. Megan nodded, taking a swig of her beer. His girlfriend before you. 3 years together. He cheated with her roommate, got the roommate pregnant, then ghosted them both. Left Lauren to pick up the pieces. The words landed like blows, each one heavier than the last. James, my James, who swore he'd never hurt me. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Megan added, her tone dry. I forced myself to breathe, the air sharp in my lungs. Why are you still in touch with him if he's such a monster? We're not friends, Megan said, shrugging. We're connected. Big difference. I keep tabs because someone needs to. And because I've always hoped one of his victims would finally make him pay. Her words stung. I'm not a victim, I snapped, my voice sharper than I meant. Megan's eyes softened, but her tone didn't waver. What would you call it then? I didn't have an answer, not one I could face. Instead, I pulled out my phone, showing her the photos from the anonymous email James and Claire in that San Jose hotel, their betrayal frozen in pixels. Megan barely glanced at them, her expression unchanged. Claire's not his only side piece, she said, casual, like she was discussing the weather. There's a woman named Lisa. Works at his gym in the Mission. He's still seeing her. The room tilted, my breath catching. Another woman? Lisa found out about Claire a few weeks ago, Megan continued. She was pissed. Might be who sent you those photos. I gripped the edge of the couch, the world unraveling faster than I could hold it together. James wasn't just cheating with Claire, he was juggling multiple women, even while engaged to me. The humiliation burned, hotter than the anger. There's more? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Megan nodded, sliding a piece of paper across the table. Lisa's number, address, Jim's schedule. Everything you need to track her down. I stared at the paper, my hands trembling. Why are you giving me this? Megan's face darkened, a shadow crossing her eyes. Let's just say James hurt people I care about. And Claire? She's not innocent. She knows exactly what she's playing at. I folded the paper, tucking it into my pocket, the weight of it heavy against my hip. What do you think I should do? I asked, almost afraid of her answer. That's on you, Megan said, finishing her beer. But if you want maximum damage, wait for Claire's baby shower. 8 weeks from now at a fancy spot in Napa. She sent invites to her inner circle already. Her lips twitched, not quite a smile. James is playing the proud dad, all smiles for the crowd. Perfect stage for a takedown. The image made my skin crawl. James and Claire, surrounded by gifts and laughter, celebrating their betrayal while I drowned in the wreckage. But beneath the nausea, something cold and sharp took root. A purpose. When's the shower? I asked, my voice steadier now. 8 weeks, Megan repeated. Plenty of time to plan something they'll never forget. I stood, the decision settling like a stone in my chest. Thanks, Megan. This helps more than you know. She walked me to the door, her voice low. Just one thing, Anna. Whatever you're planning, make sure it's worth the cost. Revenge always has a price. I thought of James's easy lies, Claire's hand on her stomach, the future they'd stolen from me. Some prices, I said quietly, stepping into the night, are worth paying. The Oakland air was cool, the city's pulse humming around me. I pulled the paper from my pocket, Lisa's name staring back. 8 weeks. I could find her, dig deeper, build a plan to shatter their perfect little world. My phone buzzed, a text from Sophie, checking in. I ignored it, my mind racing. James and Claire thought they'd won, thought I'd crumble and disappear. They were wrong. I wasn't the predictable Anna they mocked in the park. Not anymore. I sat in a bustling cafe in San Francisco's No Valley, the clink of cups and hum of voices swirling around me. My hands fidgeted with a napkin, shredding it into tiny pieces. Across from me, the booth was still empty, but Lisa would be here any minute. I'd pictured someone like Claire, polished, perfect, the kind of woman men like James chased. But when Lisa slid into the seat, I froze. Purple streaks in her hair, tattoos curling down her arm, and eyes that carried too much weight for someone barely 30. You're Anna, she said, waving over a waitress with a casual flick of her hand. You look just like your Instagram. I shifted, uneasy. You've been following me? Lisa ordered a black coffee, her gaze unflinching. Since I found out about you, yeah. 6 months ago, right after I learned about Claire. 6 months. The words hit like a brick. 6 months ago, I was picking out wedding invitations with James, dreaming of our life together. So he's been playing us all, I said, my voice tight as the waitress left. Lisa shrugged, leaning back. James isn't subtle. Always texting, dodging questions, flipping his phone face down. Classic. I recognized those habits, the ones I'd ignored, chalked up to his busy job. Trust had made me stupid. Why stay with him? I asked, the question sharper than I meant. If you knew? Lisa's laugh was dry, humorless. Why does anyone stay? Thought I could fix him. Plus, the chemistry was intense. No apologies for that. Her bluntness made me flinch, the image of James with her slicing through me. I pushed it down, focusing on her face. I didn't ask you here to talk about his skills, I said, my voice steadying. You said you had information. Lisa nodded, pulling out her phone. She scrolled, then slid it across the table. Text messages, dozens of them between her and James. Date stamped after I'd found those photos, after my world collapsed. He's still texting you, I said, scanning the screen, my heart racing. James complaining about Claire's mood swings. James questioning if the baby was his. James suggesting a hotel meetup while Claire was at a doctor's appointment. He's still seeing you, I said, looking up, disbelief heavy in my chest. When he can sneak away, Lisa confirmed, taking her phone back. Claire thinks she's the one he's chosen, but he's already planning his next exit. I should have felt smug, knowing Claire wasn't special, just another pawn in James's game. But instead, a strange pang hit Mepity, maybe, for her. Pregnant, believing in a man who'd never stay. Does she know about you? I asked. Lisa shook her head, her eyes glinting with something sharp. Nope. And that's why the baby shower's perfect. She leaned forward, her voice low, excited. 5 weeks from now in Napa. I've got texts, photos, hotel receipts enough to blow up their little fairy tale in front of everyone. Her enthusiasm unnerved me. This wasn't about justice for her. It was about destruction, raw and unfiltered. I swallowed, my throat dry. That feels extreme, I said, hesitant. Lisa scoffed, her coffee untouched. Extreme? After what they did to you. They deserve worse. Maybe they did. But sitting across from Lisa, seeing the hatred burning in her eyes, I glimpsed a version of myself I didn't want to become. Bitter, consumed, defined by someone else's betrayal. My resolve wavered, the plan I'd clung to feeling hollow. I need to think about it, I said, standing, my chair scraping the floor. This is a lot to process. Lisa's expression hardened, her voice turning cold. Don't take too long. That shower's coming, and if you're not in, I'll do it myself. I nodded, grabbing my bag, and left the cafe, my legs shaky. Outside, the city buzzed, but I felt unmoored, like I was drifting in a fog. The revenge I'd been so sure of the plan to make James and Claire pay suddenly felt like a trap. My phone buzzed, a text from Sophie. You okay? Haven't heard from you. I ignored it, my mind replaying Lisa's words, her evidence, her hunger for chaos. I walked toward the bus stop, the paper with Lisa's contact info still in my pocket, a weight I couldn't ignore. 5 weeks until the shower. I could join her, expose them, watch their world burn. Or I could walk away, but that felt like letting them win. I didn't know what I wanted anymore, only that the anger driving me was starting to feel like a cage. I stopped at a crosswalk, the city's pulse loud around me. A street musician played a slow tune on her guitar, the notes cutting through my thoughts. I closed my eyes, just for a moment, and let the music sink in. Revenge or release what was I chasing? The light turned green, and I stepped forward, unsure of my path but knowing I couldn't stay still. I knelt in the community garden behind Sophie's house in Sonoma, my hands buried in the cool, damp earth. The morning air smelled of soil and budding flowers, a quiet contrast to the chaos in my head. I yanked at a stubborn weed, its roots clinging tight, mirroring the anger still tangled inside me. A week had passed since my meeting with Lisa, her bitter words and damning texts looping in my mind. The baby shower was 4 weeks away, and I still didn't know if I'd join her plan to ruin James and Claire. Footsteps crunched on the gravel path. Ethan, the local elementary school teacher I'd met when I first arrived, stood there, a trowel in hand, his kind eyes crinkling. Need a hand, Anna? I forced a smile, brushing dirt from my jeans. Sure, if you don't mind me butchering your plants. He chuckled, kneeling beside me, and we worked in companionable silence, pulling weeds and turning soil. The repetitive motions soothed me, each tug loosening something knotted in my chest. Ethan glanced over, his voice gentle. You're attacking those weeds like they owe you money. I laughed, a small, shaky sound, and sat back on my heels. Just working through some stuff. He nodded, no pity in his gaze, just understanding. Sophie mentioned you're dealing with something heavy. Didn't need details, but I'm a good listener. Sometimes it's easier with a stranger. His kindness nearly undid me. I'd been holding myself together with rage for so long, I'd forgotten what real compassion felt like. I focused on a dandelion, prying it free, roots and all. I met someone recently, I said, my voice low. She's hurt by the same people who hurt Mimi, ex-fiancé, and my best friend. She wants to destroy them publicly at this event they're having. I paused, the weight of it settling. I thought I wanted that too. Now, I'm not sure. Ethan set his trowel down, his hands resting on his knees. You know, when my ex-wife left me for my best friend, I spent months plotting revenge. Imagined exposing their affair at their engagement party, ruining their perfect little life. I looked up, surprised. Did you do it? He shook his head, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Nope. Realized something important. He met my eyes, his voice steady. Revenge keeps you tethered to the pain. You have to keep reliving it, feeding it, to make them hurt. It doesn't free, it traps you. His words landed hard, echoing Rachel's warning at the gym, Lisa's burning anger in the cafe. I stared at my dirt-stained hands, the truth sinking in. So, what did you do instead? I asked, almost afraid of the answer. Moved here, Ethan said, gesturing to the garden. Started over. Found joy in small things, plants, kids at school, a good cup of coffee. It wasn't easy. Some days I was still mad as hell. But I stopped letting their betrayal define me. I swallowed, my throat tight. Letting go sounded impossible, like betraying myself. Who said anything about easy? Ethan said, reading my silence. He stood, offering a hand to pull me up. But maybe there's a middle ground. Not revenge, not forgiveness, just something that lets you take back your power without losing who you are. I took his hand, the warmth of it grounding me. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I glanced at the screen. A text from Lisa. Talked to Claire. She doesn't know me. Shower invites go out next week. You in? The deadline loomed, sharp and urgent, forcing a choice I wasn't ready for. I looked at Ethan, his open, honest face, and felt a shift. Lisa's path chaos, destruction didn't feel like mine anymore. I need to make a call, I said, dusting off my jeans. Thanks, Ethan. For this. He nodded, picking up his trowel. Anytime. Some weeds need pulling. Others, you just make room for something better to grow. I stepped away, the garden's quiet wrapping around me. Lisa's text glowed on my screen, a fork in the road. I could join her, expose James and Claire, let their world burn. Or I could choose something else, something that didn't leave me hollow. I didn't know yet, but for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of clarity. The sun climbed higher, warming the earth, and I took a deep breath, the weight in my chest just a little lighter. The cafe near San Francisco's Alamo Square was packed, the air thick with coffee and chatter. I spotted Claire instantly, tucked in a corner booth, her hands wrapped tightly around a mug of tea. She looked smaller than I remembered, her pregnancy now a soft curve under her sweater. Her eyes flicked up as I approached, a mix of hope and fear flashing across her face. Anna, you came, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I slid into the booth across from her, keeping the table between us like a shield. I said I would, I replied, my tone flat, masking the storm inside. Claire nodded, her fingers tightening on the mug. I know you must hate me, but I need to explain. I leaned back, arms crossed, the weight of her betrayal heavy in the air. Go ahead, I said, sharper than I meant. Explain how you slept with my fiancé. Her face crumpled, but she didn't look away. I'm sorry, Anna. What I did, it's unforgivable. I know that. Her voice shook, but I didn't soften. So, why did you do it? The question cut through the cafe's noise, raw and demanding. Claire's gaze dropped to her tea. It's complicated. James and it wasn't planned. It just happened. Just happened. I laughed, a bitter edge to it. You don't just happen to betray your best friend, Claire. You chose it. She flinched, her hands trembling. I know. I made a terrible choice. I broke your trust in the worst way. I studied her, searching for the friend I'd loved like a sister, the one who'd stayed up with me through college heartbreaks, who'd cheered loudest when James proposed. All I saw was a stranger, her eyes red, her shoulders hunched. "How long?" I asked, my voice low, dreading the answer. She hesitated, then whispered, 7 months. 7 months. While I was picking out flowers, writing vows, dreaming of our future, Claire was with James. The betrayal stung fresh, a wound torn open. "Do you love him?" I asked, unsure why it mattered, but needing to know. Claire's eyes filled with tears. "I thought I did. But now I don't know. He's not who I thought." Something in her voice made me pause, a crack in her certainty. "What do you mean?" She wiped her eyes, her voice barely audible. "After you found out, when we became official, he changed. Distant, always on his phone, working late. I started wondering if he's seeing someone else." I leaned forward, a bitter laugh escaping. "Let me guess. You think he's cheating on you?" The irony was almost too much. Claire nodded, pulling out her phone with shaking hands. She showed me texts, a thread with someone named Lisa. The messages were unmistakable, flirty, intimate, dated just days after my meeting with Lisa in No Valley. "I found these last week," Claire said, her face flushed with shame. "I checked his phone while he was in the shower. I know it's wrong, but I had this feeling." And then I found more. Messages to other women, dating apps, even one about me, saying the baby might not be his. My breath caught. "He said that?" Claire's eyes flashed with anger, real and raw. "Yes. I've never been with anyone else." His accusations, they broke something in me. I sat back, processing. If Claire was telling the truth, James had played us on. Her, Lisa, maybe more. My anger shifted, not fading but mixing with something new. Pity, maybe, for Claire, pregnant and betrayed, just like me. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice softer now. She reached across the table, then pulled back, her hand falling to her lap. "Because you deserve the truth. And because I owe you that much." The baby shower invitation sat between us, unspoken but heavy. Did she expect me to celebrate her child, James's child, after everything? "What do you want from me?" I asked, the question hanging in the air. Claire's eyes met mine, pleading. "Nothing. If you came to the shower, it would mean a lot. To me." I didn't respond, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to scream, to walk away and never look back. But another part, the part that remembered our years of friendship, wavered. As I left the cafe, my phone buzzed. A text from Megan. "DNA results are in. Baby's not James's. Got proof. Meet tonight if you want the full story." My heart pounded, the world tilting again. Not James's? Then whose? Why would Claire lie about something so fundamental? The answers were close, waiting with Megan. I could meet her, get the proof, decide how to use it, expose them at the shower, as I'd once planned, or find another path. I gripped my phone, the weight of the choice pressing down. For weeks until the shower. I wasn't sure what I'd do, but I knew I couldn't hide from this truth any longer. The Napa Valley vineyard sparkled under string lights, the baby shower a vision of pink and gold. Bouquets of peonies adorned every surface, and a table groaned under stacks of gifts, tiny onesies, plush toys, dreams wrapped in pastel. Laughter rippled through the crowd, women in sundresses clinking glasses of sparkling cider. I stood just inside the venue's entrance, my heart hammering, the envelope in my purse a lead weight. For weeks had passed since my meeting with Claire, for weeks of wrestling with Megan's bombshell, the DNA test proving the baby wasn't James's. I'd debated coming, debated using the truth, but now, here I was, my pulse racing. "You're here." Claire appeared beside me, her face lighting up, oblivious to my tension. Her flowing dress hugged her pregnancy, making her look radiant yet delicate, like she might break. "I wasn't think you'd come," she said, her voice warm. I forced a smile, my words measured. "Congratulations," I said, the word strange, too calm for the storm inside. Claire touched her belly, beaming. Thank you, Anna. It means everything to have you here. I nodded, my throat tight, unable to reply. She took my elbow gently. Come meet the girls. Some college friends are here. They've been asking about you. I let her guide me through the crowd, nodding at familiar faces, accepting hugs from women who'd once shared my joys. Their eyes darted between us, curiosity barely veiled. They were surprised to see me, this ghost of a cancelled wedding. Is James here? I asked, scanning the room, my voice casual despite the knot in my chest. Not yet, Claire said, her smile faltering. He's caught up with work, but he'll swing by. I knew his excuses too well, the vague work, the promises that never held. Anna. A sharp voice spun me around. Rachel, my gym partner, stood there, a flute of cider in hand, her eyes wide with shock. What are you doing here? I invited her, Claire said before I could speak. We're working things out. Rachel's gaze narrowed, suspicious. She pulled me aside as Claire greeted another guest. What's your play? She hissed. Last time we talked, you were planning revenge. Now you're at her baby shower. I took a breath, the truth too tangled to explain. Things changed, I said, but before I could elaborate, a stir at the entrance drew every eye. James arrived, all charm and easy smiles, a bouquet of lilies in hand. He froze when he saw me, his confidence cracking for a heartbeat before he smoothed it over. Anna, he said, approaching, cautious. Didn't expect you here. Claire invited me, I said, keeping my tone light, a smile playing on my lips. We had a chat. About fresh starts. His eyes flicked to Claire, who watched us from across the room. Right, he said, uncertain. Fresh starts. Something flickered in his gaze, fear, maybe, or calculation. Congrats, by the way, I added, raising my voice just enough for nearby guests to hear. Must be thrilled about fatherhood. James shifted, his smile tight. Yeah, big change. I sipped my water, the glass cool against my palm. I was just telling Claire, it's great you're stepping up. Not every guy would. His jaw tensed, the mask slipping. I always do the right thing, you know that. I tilted my head, my smile sharp. Do I? Before he could respond, Claire called for attention, her voice bright. Time to open gifts. She settled into a wicker chair, James standing stiffly beside her, his phone buzzing in his pocket. Guests presented their offering, booties, blankets, diapers, each met with coos and Claire's genuine thanks. James's tension grew, his eyes darting to the exit. Then it was my turn. I stepped forward, every gaze on me, the envelope burning in my purse. I wasn't sure what to get, I said, handing Claire the slim packet, my voice steady. But this felt right for both of you. Claire's brow furrowed, but she opened it, pulling out the papers. Her face drained of color, her hands shaking as she read. What is it? James asked, leaning in. DNA test, Claire whispered, her eyes locking on mine, wide with dread. How did you get this? I held her gaze, calm. Doesn't matter. What matters is what it says. James snatched the papers, scanning them, his expression hardening. This is bullshit, he spat. It's fake. It's not, I said, my voice clear, cutting through the murmurs. 2 labs confirmed it. The baby's not yours, James. A gasp rippled through the crowd. Claire clutched her stomach, tears spilling down her cheeks. You're lying, James growled, his face red. She wouldn't lie to me. The irony nearly made me laugh. Ask her about Lisa, I said, my tone even. Or the others you were texting while Claire was planning this. Claire stood, trembling. Who's Lisa? She demanded, turning to him. His silence was deafening, the room frozen, watching his lies unravel. Is it true? Claire asked, her voice breaking. James said nothing, his jaw tight. She looked at me, devastation raw on her face. If it's not his, then whose? I took a breath, the moment I'd planned for weeks right here. But seeing Claire broken, humiliated, surrounded by staring eyes, I couldn't twist the knife further. That's between you and the father, I said softly. I just wanted you to know the truth about James before you tied your life to him. Claire nodded, tears falling, her voice a whisper. Thank you. James glared, realization dawning. You set this up, he hissed. You planned this to ruin me. I met his eyes, a strange calm settling over me. No, James. You ruined yourself. I just made sure everyone saw it. He stormed out, phone already to his ear. I felt no triumph, no vindication, just a quiet relief, like shedding a weight I'd carried too long. Claire sank into her chair, friends rushing to her, their voices a blur of comfort and questions. I stood apart, detached, watching the scene unfold. Rachel appeared beside me, her voice low. Not what I expected. I turned to leave, my purpose here done. Me neither, I said, stepping into the Napa night, the stars above clearer than my heart. The sunrise bathed Sophie's garden in Sonoma with hues of gold and pink, dew glistening on rows of young plants. I knelt in the soft earth, transplanting seedlings, my fingers pressing soil gently around fragile roots. The rhythm was calming. Dig, place, cover, water, repeat, a quiet anchor after the storm of Claire's baby shower the day before. I'd stayed in Sonoma for 2 months now, longer than planned, this small town a sanctuary I hadn't expected. Ethan's voice broke the stillness. Knew I'd find you here, he said, approaching with 2 steaming coffee mugs. I took one, the warmth seeping through my gloves, and smiled. Couldn't sleep. Needed this. He knelt beside me, careful not to disturb the seedlings. Rough night. I nodded, sipping the coffee, its bitterness grounding. Was at Claire's baby shower. Things got intense. I didn't tell him everything, not the DNA test, not James's unraveling, but Ethan seemed to understand. Your revenge plan, he asked, his tone light but knowing. I looked up, startled. How'd you guess? He shrugged, a gentle smile playing on his lips. Saw it in your eyes last week. Had that same look myself once. We worked in silence, the garden waking under the dawn's glow, Ethan's quiet presence a steady comfort. Claire called me last night, I said, tracing the mug's rim. After everyone left. She thanked me. Ethan raised an eyebrow. For what? I paused, the memory of Claire's tear-streaked face vivid. For not destroying her completely. I could've, but I didn't. I'd known the baby's real father, me brother, Daniel, but kept it from the crowd. Why didn't you? Ethan asked, his voice soft. I set the mug down, dirt smudging my fingers. It wouldn't have changed anything. Just hurt her more. She's got enough to face. The compassion surprised me after all Claire had done. Maybe I was tired of being the one to wield pain. My phone buzzed, a text from Megan, asking if I'd finished the job. I ignored it, her hunger for destruction no longer mine. What now? Ethan asked, brushing soil from his hands. I looked at the garden, at the seedlings reaching for light. I don't know, I admitted. I've been hiding here, focused on making them pay. Now I'm not sure what's next. You could stay, Ethan said, his voice careful. Sophie says you're working remotely. Could do that here, put down roots. The idea tempted me. Sonoma's peace, this garden, Ethan's quiet humor. But something resisted. I can't keep hiding, I said, the truth settling in. I need to go back to San Francisco, face my life. Ethan nodded, no pressure, just understanding. Sophie appeared at the garden gate, her face tense. Anna, someone's here for you. My heart skipped, fearing James, but Sophie stepped aside, revealing Claire, small and weary in the morning light. Claire, I said, brushing dirt from my knees. What are you doing here? Her eyes were red, her voice steady but fragile. I needed to see you. In person. Ethan squeezed my shoulder, murmuring, I'll give you space, and left. Claire sat on the garden bench, her hand on her belly. James is gone, she said, staring at her hands. Packed up last night, left a text saying he needed space. He's not coming back. I stayed silent, The news unsurprising but heavy. There's something else, she added, her voice breaking. The baby's father, it's Daniel. My brother. The name hit hard, a twist I hadn't expected. It was one night, she whispered, tears falling. After your engagement party. We were drunk, lost. I didn't know how to tell you. I sat beside her, the garden's quiet wrapping around us. Does he know? She shook her head. Not yet. I took a breath, the weight of it all settling. You should tell him, I said. He deserves to know. So does the baby. Relief flickered in her eyes. Thank you, Anna. For this. For yesterday. I looked at the seedlings, their fragile stems bending toward the sun. I almost ruined you, I admitted. That was my plan to make you both hurt like I did. But revenge, it just keeps you stuck. Claire took my hand, hesitant. I let her, the gesture strange but not unwelcome. I'm not asking for forgiveness, she said. I know I don't deserve it. I squeezed her hand once, letting go. Maybe it's not about forgiveness. Maybe it's about moving forward. She nodded, promising to call Daniel, and left. I returned to the garden, staking a frail seedling to help it grow. Ethan reappeared, his voice soft. You okay? I patted the soil, a small smile breaking through. I will be. The garden stretched before me, some plants thriving, others struggling, all reaching for light. I'm ready to go home, I said, the words true in my bones. Not running, not hiding, just starting over. Ethan grinned, the morning sun bright around us. Need company? I laughed, the sound free, and stepped forward, the path ahead clear, not perfect, but mine to choose.